The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You have to be strong in today's world. Keep your focus and what you believe in, how to achieve all your dreams. Keep moving forward, never accept less than who you are. Live your best life. Be strong and free. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
The Hit Back with Nahaja Black is sponsored by the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Baha Retreat and Spa, Helena Financial Advisors Limited, and J.S. Johnson.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the Hit Back. I'm Hubert Edwards. I'm sitting in for Nahaja Black. She had some things that she needed to do today. And so she asked me kindly if I could, and certainly always willing to help out a sister in need, a friend. So here I am, and we're having this discussion on Monday, the first day of the week, the 20th of September, the week following the weekend after the election. And so we will have ourselves a conversation. We'll talk about some of the things that you want to talk about. I'm sure you have thoughts on the elections. You have thoughts on the selections which are taking place, the swearing-in ceremonies which have taken place so far, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister. We can talk about all of that, the Moodys Downgrade, issues around transparency being foreshadowed by the Prime Minister. We can talk about some eras which are going to be vitally important and which maybe at least be contemplated in the minds of many as it relates to the state of the economics of the country. We see in today's Guardian Mr. Anthony Ferguson talking about the downgrade. It was expected, the whole idea of us moving to an IMF program and whether or not that is something which is useful. There's a lot of things to talk about. The numbers is 323-6232, 325-4316, and 325-4259. We're certainly a pleasure for you to join us. If you want to participate by text, then the number is 422-4796. So where are you? So let me start where I think we should start. The election is over, and the Progressive Liberal Party has been declared a victor. We have now before us a country to build, to rebuild, to continue recovering from COVID, the twin crisis, both health and economics. And so the administration, the PLP administration, has started to roll out and select its members, the persons who will participate in its cabinet as part of the executive. And so let us pause here to say congratulations to the Honorable Brave Davis, Philip Edward Brave Davis, ascending to the office of Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Certainly, it's an achievement which anyone, as a citizen, achieve, which is worthy of praise, worthy of congratulations. We also want to congratulate Isaac Chester Cooper, the Honorable Isaac Chester Cooper, been sworn in as Minister of Tourism, Investment and Aviation. There's a new spin on that. The investment portion has been put in for the first time. And he's also slated in the position as Deputy Prime Minister. We all know it's non-constitutional, but it has been part and parcel of the fabric of the way politics and government is done in this side of the world, not only here in the Bahamas, but in multiple other countries. So we want to congratulate him for having made that achievement. I can say unequivocally that the expectations are high. And the expectations is not simply because the PLP won. Any party which would have won the election at this point in time the expectations would be still at the same level. The simpler difference is, or would have been if the FNM had won, was that they were there, and the argument could be made that, how much different would you expect them to be than they were? Regardless of how you see that. The difference here is the fact that the country, by voting in the PLP, has signaled that it was dissatisfied with the FNM. The expectation is exponentially different. The expectations are high. The fixes are urgent. The focus has to be clinical and precise, pinpointed. There's a multiplicity of issues which have confronted the country over the last 2 years, starting with Dorian and into 2019, 2020, which really is going to require significant amount of work, significant amount of focus, significant amount of collaboration across the aisles, across the borders, across tribes, however persons are divided, in order for us to move the country forward. The country has vested its confidence in, mainly for the sake of the way government works, these two gentlemen, Mr. Brave Davis as the Prime Minister and his deputy, who he selected. And so they now have to step to the line, step forward, and they will have to deliver. We have seen a trend from 2002 to 2021. And in every single one of those instances, each administration has lasted only one term. But in the last three, I think, in the last 3 years, there is what is referred to in parliamentary terms as supermajorities. The government, the administration, each have supermajority. And in a way, it's not necessarily a good thing for the party. The parties usually struggle. Administrations usually struggle when they have too many members elected because they have to find places to put them, and there's a potential for rift and unsettlement because, you don't have, some persons believe that they should have and they didn't. So it's not always an optimal thing to have wipeouts. From a democratic point of view, democracy point of view, from the effectiveness of Parliament, the ability for Parliament to check the executive, it's also not a very good thing. But on the flip side, given where the Bahamas is with a multiplicity of issues which needs the attention of Parliament and maybe even some changes at the constitutional level, what if the last two administrations basically wasted opportunities of their supermajority in making those changes, those social changes, changes of equality and equity between the sexes, so on and so forth? And what if this is another opportunity for that to happen? With a supermajority, you can get away with a number of things. Of course, if it is not good things, then you will be punished eventually. But if it is good things, even though they may be uncomfortable, eventually, in the long run, they will, all things being equal, be rewarded. What if this opportunity presents itself again to the Progressive Liberal Party's administration, and how will it be used? So there are a number of other issues out there to contemplate. Issues around how we do democracy and the commitment to democracy, commitment to accountability, commitment to transparency. And so as the administration goes about the business of selecting its cabinet, one of the first things to keep an eye on is how big is it going to be? In the face of a small opposition, 7 members, is the Progressive Liberal Party new administration going to take the deliberate steps to ensure that it protects or embrace the long-standing convention of the Westminster system such that Parliament has a robust ability to check the executives? Now, if you listen to the speeches from the Prime Minister during his swearing-in ceremony, if you listen to the speech from the Deputy Prime Minister, I think each hit the exact right note which needs to be hit. Now, there are some things said which you have to read between the lines and turn the paper to the side to best appreciate that what was said is not all that will be said. But be that as it may, I think overall, some fundamental things have been said, and I think the tone from those 2 speeches, well, more than 2 really, but certainly the speech from the Deputy Prime Minister and the speeches from the Prime Minister has set the tone which, or at least has set a tone which I think is useful for starting and certainly useful going forward. Now, having set that tone, every single action hereafter, must remain consistent with that because that is where the benchmark is. Must. And the first and foremost task that this government has before it, in which it will signal its commitment to democracy, its commitment to good governance, is the size of the executive. Get that wrong from day one, and questions will start to be asked. Get that right, and the right cadence will be set for going forward. I think it's fundamentally important. It's important simply because of what it is and what it represents in staying true to the conventions and the principle of the system and ensuring that these 3 legs of government work effectively: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. It's important and fundamental from that point of view. But it's also important and fundamental in a contrasting point of view, where the populace, the electorate says, we were dissatisfied with the former administration. And on analysis, one of the things that one could conclude about the former administration was the size of the executive. So first things first, great place to start. So we want to say congratulations to those gentlemen and to all the other individuals who will be appointed to ministerial positions. And we certainly look forward to seeing you and hearing from you as we all work, every single one of us, citizens, residents, people passing through, people hailing, people flying over, work to make the Bahamas what it potentially can be. I think that's where the commitment must be. In Chester Cooper's speech, he indicated the fact that, look, we must embrace those who didn't support. And so the tone has been set, and I hope to see a Bahamas over the next few years which embraces all Bahamas, where there are no evident fissures, there are no evidence of differences. Historically, lest you think this is a contrast with the past administration, historically, this has not been so. Historically, all ministers, prime ministers, deputy prime ministers says the exact same thing. We are going to manage for all Bahamians. Historically, everybody says it. It's the right thing to say. It's the right thing to do. The question, though, is, on analysis, has that always been consistent, or at least was it always done to the extent necessary, the highest extent possible? Was it? And will it? A glorious opportunity is before us, not simply because of the election, but, and certainly if we use the tagline, that the theme of the PLP, it's a new day. But every day represents a new day for change. Not to diminish the statement, but right here, right now, as a country, not a party, not the government, but as a country, we will have to decide if today represents a new day, a new outlook with new possibilities, chasing limitless possibilities, chasing opportunities which have always existed but may have not been fully exploited and leveraged. That's a collective and national decision. And to the extent that any significant portion of individuals move away from or is not engaged in or included in such a decision, the outcome is going to be suboptimal. We are going to achieve less than we are capable of achieving. And that certainly is always a waste of opportunity. So if you want to jump in on the conversation, again, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. We would love to hear from you. We have some other things that we want to talk about, but certainly want to hear your input. We have a caller on the line. Caller, you are on the hit back. Go ahead.
A godly day to this talking voice along with you, Hubert.
Godly day to you, sir.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Bremen Darling Ferguson here. You talked about being delivered, right? And you talked about...
Delivered? No, I don't use that word. I don't remember using the word delivered.
You said to deliver. That's the word you used.
Oh, for them to deliver, yeah.
Okay, now, so what would we be delivered to?
What would...
And who?
I'm not understanding your question. I'm not understanding your reasoning. I am saying basically that the new administration has an obligation to deliver to the country those things which are there as opportunity, those things which they would have stated. There is a platform, it's called Blueprint for Change. There have been many ideas and arguments and proposition which were made on the campaign trail.
Okay, give me several main objectives in which are on the blueprint. Before you do that, right? What it is in the Constitution? You speak of the Constitution. What it is in the Constitution you presume needs to be changed? What needs to be established in the Constitution?
In the Constitution,
that's not there.
One of the things I can think about in the Constitution very, very quickly is the fact that man and woman need to have equal rights of passing on their citizenship. I know that subject to the ruling which is going up to the Privy Council, but there are instances where there appears to be discrimination between the sexes. That would be one example.
Okay. I thought we all have equal citizenship now to give out for our children to.
No, that's not the case. If a woman is married to a foreign male, yes, I think that is. If she's married to a foreigner, she doesn't have the ability to pass her citizenship on to her children. I stand to be corrected, but I think I'm right.
Okay, but the gentleman have the rights to for the children that belongs to whichever country that he hails from.
Yes, and the last development was the ruling in the Supreme Court around the issue as to.
I can hardly hear you. Hello?
No, I think we have a bad connection. Yeah, I think the last development was the ruling on the case as to whether the man has the ability to pass on his citizenship to his children if he is married to a foreign lady, foreign woman. No, he's unmarried. If they're unmarried and they have children and the father is unable to do that, the ruling in the case says yes, but that is subject to appeal of the Privy Council. You can call back if you wish to continue the discussion. But yes, let's hear from you. Now, there's a statement which was made by the Honorable Prime Minister. Are you back? Go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, well, I think you sound just about the same, though.
Oh yeah, it sounds like I don't think it's my phone. I think you need to.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that we need to do on this side, is it, Mr. Producer?
Okay. Explain what you were saying, because
Yes, so I'm saying that the man, if he has a child with he's unmarried, if he has a child with a foreign woman, he's not able to pass on his citizenship as it currently stands. But there's a case before the courts, and the ruling was done in the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal, and I think it's now heading to the Privy Council.
So in other words, they need to speed that up.
Definitely, they need to.
So that's not an issue for the Constitution.
It is an issue for the Constitution. If the ruling says yes, then that's fine. But there are still other issues with the Constitution, as I pointed out before.
Okay, let me ask you something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when those members of the House got sworn in, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got sworn as giving the Queen the authority, right?
I think they do swear to the Queen, yeah.
Say it again?
I think the swearing in involves languages to the Queen about being committed to the Queen, yes.
Okay, so tell me something. We as a people, as a Bahamian people, where should we be looking to go or be delivered to or home when we have our own objective and we show that by voting for them without a lot of us doesn't have the understanding of the wordings in which those members had used pertaining to the Queen.
Well, it's a construct. The allegiance is to the Queen. The Queen is the titular head of the country. As part of we're technically a monarchy, represented by the Governor General, and so it's just what it is.
So where are we going? Just what it is. Where are we going, or where we should be going?
I don't know. If you were to give me a choice, I would certainly break all ties with the Queen. I don't think that a country of largely African descent people should pledge allegiance to the Queen. That may sound challenging to some persons. It's my personal view, and I'll just say it as it is. I really think we are at a stage in our development in this side of the world, certainly in the Bahamas, for there to be, to break ties with the monarchy.
And then the thing is, some of those people are under the impression that there are too many people in the world. They only want a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
There's some of that. There's nothing that we can do about that.
Say it again?
I don't know how we can do that. I'm not sure that...
How we can do what?
How we can address this issue about too many people in the world, or who think there may too many persons in the world. But anyway, thank you for your contribution. Certainly a pleasure for you calling in. We have a texter here who says, "Hi, we have a new day, but my question to our people is, do we have a new mind?" And I think that's a really good question. The truth is, if I could take a stab at that, texter, is that in the context of which this slogan of a new day has been used, it is always going to be incomplete without a new mindset. Because the only thing that separates yesterday from today as far as politics and governance is concerned will be the attitude, the mindset, the approach, the performances, the difference in interacting with people, the interaction between those who govern and the general populace. So without a new mind, as you put it, broadly speaking, then the whole idea of a new day cannot concretize. Because what will then happen without a shift, a paradigm shift, what I refer to often as a mind shift, is that we'll start out in the moment of euphoria, when we have things right in front of us, when we have talked about them very often. And then without the mind shift, which is a fundamental change, a breaking up of an old paradigm, an effort to create a new paradigm, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing, a new way of being. And that last one is most important. It's not simply just thinking about it, but being that. So when you go back to the statements made by the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, those statements, those idealism, which are captured in their speeches, when we become that, not simply espousing them, but when we become that, then all of a sudden, it's a brand new day. It have to be. It have to be a brand new day the moment there is a mind shift. Total mind shift. And I think the way the slogan has been used is to indicate that, look, everything that was up to now is going to be different. Well, at least the things which were not positive and productive and of value will be different. I am sure that they are not proposing that good things will be changed. How else can we move from a place where we are one way to another way without having a mind shift? And like you said, a brand new mind. And so that, I think, is part and parcel of this whole thing. In his speech, the Honorable Prime Minister says, "I also commit to lifting the veil of secrecy on that which has gone before us, so that all arrangements under which we have to live are transparent and those who authored them are accountable." Maybe one of the most powerful statements in the speech itself. But it could also be a statement which signals a spot of bother for some persons. Knowing Mr. Brave Davis, as I know him from a distance like anybody else, we know that he is a lawyer, a QC, and very good with words. So he will put statements together which may sometimes require a second and a third look. But pretty much what I get from this is, look, if anything was done wrong while we weren't in this chair, we're going to turn that up, and whosoever did the wrong things will be held accountable. Now, does that sound consistent with what the previous administration said at its beginning? Maybe different words, but the essence, I think, is the same. But it also could be interpreted differently in that it's designed to set the tone of what is going to happen in the future. Government in the sunshine, as one which was used a while back. It could set the tone that, look, here is an administration which wants to be seen as being totally open, totally transparent, and anyone who authors, anyone who does anything in the process of governance will be held accountable. It's just that it has these couple words which says, gone before us. But we would assume that having looked at what has gone before them, it would set the tone for what will be happening with them and what could come after them. Which is one of the areas where if a new day is going to be real, sound, and fundamental, we must see reforms. Significant reforms are necessary. Some have been started on the FNM, and those need to be continued. Freedom of information, reforms around public finances, all of these things must become real. I think in this administration, in this space, the tone has to be set such that when you get to year 2, year 3, you're going to see, or you would expect to see, a well-oiled machine which has addressed many of the issues which were discussed over many years, and certainly over the last 4 years and some, as being bothersome to the relationship between government and the public. The desire for information, the ease of getting information, the desire to be able to trust the information which is coming out, the desire to be in a position where you trust and rebuild the trust between government and the electorate. And the confidence of knowing that if things go south, those who caused them to be will be held accountable. I think in this environment, certainly coming right on the back of this election, there is a huge appetite for that. Whether or not that appetite will wane over time, we'll have to wait and see. But that's where we are. I think we should take a break now. Again, you can join us 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Let's take a break, and when we come back, hope to hear from you.
J.S. Johnson Insurance agents are the best. Reliable service, we've been on the scene, protecting since 1919. J.S. Johnson Insurance has stood the test. You'll always cover me. J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
Have you heard about the COVID vaccine raffle? If you are vaccinated against COVID-19, you can enter to win amazing prizes like food store gift certificates, hotel stays, beach excursions, and so much more. Even if you are previously vaccinated, you can still enter to win. The COVID vaccine is free, safe, and protects you from severe COVID-19 infections. Don't delay. Get vaccinated today and enter to win. Visit www.baxbahamas.com to register.
What happened to you? You look like you lost your paycheck.
Man, I just realized I got scammed out of a bunch of money. They said I won this contest and just needed me to send them some money so I could collect. I mean, to expedite something. Or was it to smooth the process?
Man, you're smarter than that. Protect yourself against scams and fraud by following these tips. If you know you didn't enter a competition, you can't win. Never pay to receive a cash prize. If you're being asked, you're being scammed. Check trusted internet sites for verification of information given to you. Do not give your banking details to people you don't know. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Monitor your bank account regularly for any questionable transactions. Get more information at getmoneysmartbahamas.com.
Baja sugar, sugar, let's get sugary. Softer, smoother, and amazing skin. Oh, Baja sugar, sugar, we're the sugar ladies, giving you skin soft as a baby's. Goodbye hair, we'll take good care of you.
Come visit us at Baja Retreat Spa on East Bay Street. Contact us at 323-6711 or visit us online at www.baharetreat.com.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAO, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAO, growing wealth for future generations.
For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have balus, pork, fish, and chicken, served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Balus, Nassau East South, call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Balus, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Balus jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And welcome back to the Hit Back on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I am your guest host, Hubert Edwards. I'm sitting in for Nahaja Black. So we have touched on a number of issues relating to the administration, the new administration, and obviously, like I said before, we wish them all the best. We wish them success because their success, obviously, is the success of the Bahamas. They cannot be successful unless the Bahamas is successful, and if they fail, then the Bahamas have failed. So let's talk about Moodys. Moodys gave the Bahamas, there was a downgrade where the rating moved from BA3 to BA2, basically from, junk to junkier in some ways. It was always have been at a challenging level because of the headwinds that we kind of ran into after Dorian and certainly with the COVID virus, loss of revenues from tourism. The Bahamas is just really, really right now in a challenging place. And so on analysis, the rating ought to have been expected sooner or later. There shouldn't have been any surprises, certainly around the table of those who know these things and follow these things. But the timing of when the information dropped, I think, had some persons' eyes risen. It came one day after the election, but I believe that, it existed, and certainly, prudence ruled the day. Do not release this so that it doesn't get included or caught up in this whole discussion around the election, and potentially would have an impact on the election. Now, I don't think the results would be different, but it could have been worse if you look at it from that perspective. But what does this mean for the Bahamas in a real sense? We're now looking at a situation where the Bahamas needs to borrow significantly. We have a current budget which has a deficit. The deficit was $951 million. But we also have a borrowing plan which I think was $1.8 billion. So 951 of that is to fund the shortfall in terms of expenses, expenditure versus income, and the rest is largely to reschedule loans. So we owe some people some monies, and those loans are becoming due within the currency of this fiscal year, and they need to be repaid. And the cost of borrowing those funds just got a little bit more expensive. When you look at the budget itself, it's projected that there is going to be a charge for interest of $512 million, or about 18% of total expenditure. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the highest level it has been in history, the history of the Bahamas. But it just got a little bit more expensive. And the downgrade, I think, creates some level of additional challenges, especially for a new administration, which created a certain set of proposition as encapsulated in the PLP's blueprint for change, which must now be rationalized, maybe adjusted, reconsidered, reprioritized in the face of either lack of funding or difficulty in securing funding. Now, I'm not saying that the sky is falling. Certainly, that's not my message here. I think at the end of the day, the Bahamas will find the funds to fund the budget. There's no question about that in my mind. At the end of the day, the Bahamas will be okay, generally speaking, in terms of finding the resources, albeit that they will be borrowed. The larger point I'm making, and the important point that I'm making, is that the plans which have been envisioned going forward may require readjustments. Some things may need to be changed, some things may need to change radically, at least for this first year, because we must remember that this election is unusual in a number of ways, one of which being that it comes so early in the actual fiscal year. So we literally have to get to May, June. So we still have about 9 months to go in the fiscal year, which has already been budgeted for. Now, the new administration has a couple of options. We could have a supplementary budget, and we may very well see one given the state of affairs. Again, if we read between the lines of what has been said, we would hear the Honorable Chester Cooper said, look, we are going into a situation where we still yet do not have a full grasp of what the true economic state of affairs of the country is. Juan McCartney on his show today outlined a number of areas, including the sale of the hotels and a number of other things which are at this moment, at this point in time, unsettled, or at least from the public perspective, we do not have indication that they are settled. And these things must factor into whatsoever financial plan will be in place going forward. So we know that Senator Alquites has been slated, given the nod to be in the finance arena. I think he'll be Minister of State for Finance. And so he will have his task of working through with the recently returned Financial Secretary, Mr. Simon Wilson. And they will have to sort this out to say exactly where we are. Hopefully, there is not much new cost which will be discovered. But government accounting being what it is and the way it is done, you can expect that there are going to be some increases here or there. It's largely on a cash basis, so there are some things which are crystallizing as we speak, crystallizing as the reports which were sent out were being sent out. It's just the nature of things. And so this downgrade have important implications for the country going forward. And it certainly have implications for the plans and the programs of the new administration. How they choose to transact that, how they choose to go about this process will be up to them. But certainly, the multiplicity of issues which are noted there, I think give them space to reprioritize and maybe find some of the low-hanging fruits which may not need upfront funding while they work on some of the other things. But bottom line, the Bahamas just earned itself a more costly means of supplying the funds through borrowing than it was the day before the election. You're listening to the Hit Back, Guardian 96.9, Guardian Radio 96.9. We're going to take a break here for the news, and then when we come back, we continue our conversation. Join us on the other side.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. You're listening to the Guardian News Network. I'm Taylor Ferguson. Here's what's making news. Thank you for tuning in. A swearing-in ceremony for newly appointed cabinet ministers continuing at this hour at Bahamas. Among the appointees, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senator Ryan Pinder, Foreign Affairs and the Public Service, Fred Mitchell, Minister of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, Glenys Hannah Martin. Alfred Sears has been appointed Minister of Works and Utilities. Dr. Michael Darville will serve as Minister of Health and Wellness. The Minister of Economic Affairs and Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Michael Halkitis. On Saturday, Chester Cooper was sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation. Others to be sworn in this afternoon, Clay Sweeting, Wayne Monroe, and Jomo Campbell. The White House announced today that all international travelers will have to be fully vaccinated in order to enter the United States. In addition to showing proof of vaccination, a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of departure will also be required. Those changes will take effect in early November. As of September 18th, 184,461 doses of the vaccine had been administered in the Bahamas. A total of 73,901 people are fully vaccinated. COVID-related deaths in the Bahamas now 510 after 4 more people lost their lives to the virus earlier this month. Health officials reporting they were all women, all residents of New Providence, ages 40 to 73, who passed away between September 4th and 8th. We're told now 30 deaths remain under investigation. 100 new infections recorded on Saturday, 1,781 cases still listed as active. And that's what's making news. I'm Taylor Ferguson. AP News is coming up next.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Big losses on Wall Street. The Dow lost 614 points. Pfizer says it's putting the paperwork together to send to the Food and Drug Administration by the end of the month the request for emergency use authorization of its coronavirus vaccine for kids 5 to 11. It would be a lower dose compared to what's given to adults. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
More than 5 million children in the U.S. have tested positive for the virus, and cases have been rising amid the Delta variant surge. While kids are at lower risk of severe illness or death due to COVID-19 than older people, the American Academy of Pediatrics says at least 460 children have died.
In most Western countries, only people 12 and older have been vaccinated. President Biden will ease foreign travel restrictions into the U.S. beginning in November. The administration will require all foreign nationals flying into the country to be fully vaccinated. I'm Ed Donahue.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And welcome back to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. I am Hubert Edwards sitting in for her. So what are the issues? So we are talking about it, and I know that the swearing-in ceremony is happening now, and clearly some persons are tuned into that. But be that as it may, we have a number of things that we can continue to talk to, and I will talk. If you shout in, then certainly we will have a conversation. Otherwise, I'll give you my views on these matters. So we talked about the expensiveness of borrowing going forward. And this certainly has an implication for where we are with our debt stock at the moment, or just under, well, not just under, but it's just over $10 billion, with expectation that by the end of, certainly going into the next fiscal, we'll be at $11 billion. And debt to GDP, depending on how you measure it, could very well be over 100%. I would have noted before in instances that we have to be mindful and cognizant of, why persons kind of fuss over these measures. This old debt to GDP, why is it important? Because, if we take a look at the United States and, their debt to GDP, I think, is as tall as the Empire State Building, but they're still okay. But why is it important? And we can talk about that. We can look at some of the issues, but certainly this downgrade have implications. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to the Hit Back. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, Hubert, Dr. Hubert.
How are you doing, sir?
I am very, very well. You started out at some point, or you begin, because I just tuned in, but I heard you talking about having to, like, so I don't misquote you like the previous caller. But you have to, like, you could understand having to pull your socks up and having to sometimes use the same socks for a little longer kind of thing, because here it is now. Okay, let's say the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he may be accustomed to traveling, using a $10,000 budget every 6 months or so in traveling, but now he could probably find it more convenient to use Zoom and save us some money. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to us being prudent and where costs can be saved and costs can be saved. Now, in the grand scheme of things, right? In the grand scheme of things, there's some discussions, there are some things which people need to be in front of each other, or at least, these days in the same room, properly social distance. And, you can't make an argument for saving, a couple $1,000s at the risk of having interactions which are not effective. So if we're talking about saving a couple $1,000s here and there, as opposed to finding programs and cutting savings which are going to be substantially...
I think you misunderstood me.
Yeah, go ahead. All right.
I think you misunderstood me. You see, having that presence, I can understand you can't accomplish much because it's all about your foreign affairs.
Yes.
But what we want is foreign policy to be formed.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in front of you and create and design a policy.
Right.
See, the affairs is when we come together and we have parties and say, we need that no more, and we serious for the thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, from that perspective, I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. From that perspective, the foreign policy obviously needs to be formulated not by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but by the government. The government itself needs to have a core set of foreign policy as to how it will interact with the world. And I would expect, therefore, then that would represent the guardrail for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to operate within.
But do you know of any foreign policy that has been enacted on behalf of Bahamian people that you could point to? And I can say, yes, this was accomplished. Any foreign policy?
No. Historically, there has never been a focus on clear delineation of foreign affairs. And that is largely because I believe that countries like the Bahamas take the stance that the geopolitical might that comes with, that gives the ability to do certain things is not there. But no, we certainly have not demonstrated a clear indication of having foreign policy.
Well, let's get it done right.
Yeah, good time to start, right?
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for calling in. This texter says, hi, Mr. Edwards. Is the Minister of Economic Affairs, Mr. Alkitis, under the Ministry of Finance? Who is the Minister of Finance? As I understand it, the Prime Minister is going to be the Minister of Finance. So he will be the substantive minister in the House of Assembly. And Mr. Alkitis, being unelected, will be a senator. And he will be in the Senate. And if this is the title which he has been given, I'm not aware, but if you're saying so, I'll trust you on that, Minister of Economic Affairs. So technically, he will be working with the Prime Minister, and I would suspect that he would be the one doing the heavy lifting as it relates to the Ministry of Finance, but the substantive minister responsibility and accountability will rest with the Prime Minister, as it was in the past with Mr. Christie, Mr. Ingram, and latterly with Mr. Minnis. So I think that's where we are at this point in time. So we were talking about the impact of the downgrade, and that downgrade I think will bring this argument up. Will the Bahamas be embracing or be pushed or be steered in the direction of IMF fiscal adjustment program? It's for the Bahamas a scary proposition at an emotional level and at a fundamental level. As I mentioned earlier in my opening salvos, Mr. Anthony Ferguson, a well-respected man in the financial world, would have indicated that, yes, it may be a thing to do, but at the end of the day, will it be beneficial? The fact of the matter is, if one takes a very careful assessment of countries across the globe, not just within the region, but across the globe, and for the most part, these are smaller or developing economies. These economies which would have had the benefit of intervention from the IMF, by and large, struggled after. Because the IMF comes in and it does some important things, right? So it says to government, and I think it's largely, it builds consensus, but it says to them, well, in order for you to have A, B, and C, you need to do A, B, and C. So issues like divesting yourself of assets usually comes up on the top of the pile. Within the context of the Bahamas, there's not a lot of assets which I personally am aware of that the government can divest itself of. When I would have experienced this in Jamaica, Jamaica would have owned big holdings in, say, the bauxite industry. Divest that. There's no such similar thing. So there are some state-owned entities which are owned by the government. One that we could think of is BPL. So things like those may come up for divestment. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because you take them and you put them into private sector hands. But it's not in all instances where the outcomes, the things which they ask the government to do, to change your tax code, to increase taxation, to cut back on certain social programs and so on, the sum total of that sometimes cause great suffering. But in the context of this, we have to really look at the pros and the cons. And, this week I'm going to have a show and I'll be speaking with Marla Dukaran, who is a Caribbean economist and advisor. I think many persons in the Bahamas are very much familiar with her because she has written about and spoken to issues in the Bahamas here. So we'll have her on Thursday night and we'll kind of get more into these things from an expert point of view. But in between what I refer to as the boogeyman view of the IMF and the kind of sweetheart view, which we would have heard many times when we look at what happened in Jamaica recently, where there were two separate structural adjustment programs. And the Bahamas and Jamaica kind of come out of that, smelling a bit like roses based on the results, at least on paper. 20 consecutive months of, quarter of growth. When we look at those extreme, the reality is that in the middle, there is always pain. Always. Jamaica, for example, experienced those 20 quarters of consecutive growth at the expense of the taxpayer. The taxpayers felt it in significant ways. Because if you are showing growth or surplus, no, it wasn't growth, surplus over that period of time, but when you look at the actual growth in GDP, that wasn't significant at all, then obviously that has been paid for someplace. And ultimately, it have to be on the back of the taxpayer. So from my perspective, I would align myself with Mr. Ferguson in saying, hey, yeah, that's a way to go, but my views is that we should avoid that as much as is possible. As a matter of fact, we should avoid it like the plague. What does that mean, therefore? If there are fundamental issues on the table which would push the Bahamas into the arms of the IMF, I'm saying if, not saying that they are, but let's assume that there are those fundamental issues. There are weaknesses, there are deficiencies, there are structural adjustments which are needed. There are structural weaknesses in the economic arrangement. If those exist, and we made the argument, I made the argument that we should avoid the IMF like a plague, it therefore requires and necessitates that we do it ourselves. Because there's absolutely no free lunch. The medicine have to be taken at some point. The recovery, reconstruction, and move of the Bahamas to a level of resilience will not come without cost. It will not come without pain. And it cannot come without some measure of austerity. Austere measures, however you want to say. The whole idea is that rather than have your being operated on intrusively, you start to take the medicine drip by drip to avoid that ultimate option of a very serious and radical surgery. So the administration today is faced with those choices. Do we go in and identify and implement deep reforms, which is going to keep us from heading down that road? And one of the positives really of having a new administration, regardless of how you see it, maybe you don't like or you don't see a positive there because that's not the party you support, but always the possibility of having a new administration is that it can go to the world with a new message, brand new message, because it can make the differentiation that up to now we were not the ones saying this and we were not the ones implementing these plans. Here are our new plans, our new outlook, our new vision, and we think that we will have new, different, and better outcomes. So it makes it just that little bit more of ease in going in that direction, wherein an incumbent government would already been locked in with its own track record, its own pronouncement over time, and its own performance up to that point in time. You see what I'm saying? So, there's some value to be gained here for the Bahamas from having a brand new administration, and that has to be leveraged. And it has to be leveraged in a very, very serious and fundamental way. But the one thing which is sure and certain is urgency. If you go back to 2019, for example, and we look at the report that was commissioned by the Chamber of Commerce, which was done by Oxford Economics, there is a concluding statement in there which says, and the whole idea was, hey, let's look at what the issues are around us ascending to the WTO. For the most part, the country didn't want this. The country didn't support it. And as a result of that, the government, the administration, the minister administration pulled back from that. But the report there too, in saying whether we should or should not, and outlining the benefit or the vagaries of doing so, there was a concluding statement in there which was very, very important and fundamental. It basically said, hey, whether you go to the WTO or not, well, whether you going to the WTO is not a panacea for the issues that ails the Bahamas. There is a multiplicity, some other issues there which need to be dealt with, and the government, the administration then, must quickly deal with these things in order to drive robust growth and development in the country. I want to posit to you today, right now, right here, that those issues still exist as we speak. And that advice remains still relevant and potent. So it really sets the tone for this whole idea that we have a lot to do, that we can do, and that we should do. We have a caller. Caller, go ahead. You're on the It Back.
Yes, sir. Good evening to all.
Good evening to you, sir.
Yes. You know, seems like you're kind of like giving the government of the day an excuse. You know what I'm saying? To not to obfuscate from their plan. You know, to deviate from their economic plan.
Why would you say that?
Yeah, because you're talking about this downgrade. You know, but this government under their last term in office, they had many downgrades. In fact, they had more downgrades than the PLP, than the FNM did.
Yes.
You know, and so they should have everything as well as natural disasters, you know, in their plans, you know, in their economic plans. You see, but my view is that everything in their plans. See, I've been dealing with their plans, or studying their plans, and finding issues in their plans that does not assist the poor people. And you know, when people will they'll call me communist. You see, there's no income tax in the plan. You know, these are organizations. This rating organizations has been advising this government to do an income tax, and they refuse to do it.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. You know, because you say, and I think you're misunderstanding my train of thinking. Do you believe that all of the issues, all of the points noted under the 10 captions in the blueprint for change, do you think all of those, as stated right now, can be implemented exactly as stated?
Yeah, well, these are their plans, you know.
No.
I feel
No. You have to work with me. You know, when you told me a particular thing, you know, I accept that. So I want you to work with. I'm asking you a simple question. Do you believe that the plans as enunciated by the PLP when they were on the campaign trail, as encapsulated in the blueprint for change, can be implemented exactly as they stated it there?
Well, some can and some cannot. But my issue is the plans that they have in their plans is no good for the people. They're not good plans. You know, let's just take, for instance, they say that there's a plan for housing, right? Mm-hmm. A plan for housing comes in one of those categories, right? They said they're going to do rent for own for the poor folks. Come on now. Rent to own. That means you're going to build homes for poor people, many poor people in this country. For one, they don't have the land to do it, right?
Government has land.
To build enough homes for all the poor people in this country?
Yes.
Where in Nassau?
Well, you see, you just limited the solution to Nassau.
So there's no plan to move all the majority of us, the poor, out in Nassau where the land is available.
Again, if here is something that we do often, right? You know, I'm not making an excuse for them. They'll have to figure out how they're going to implement this. But if I come to you and I say, I am going to feed all 1,000 persons down there, right?
Right.
And then you take a look around and you see me with, a couple loaves of bread, and you immediately say, well, them bread can't feed that 1,000 persons, right? Because you are limiting the solution to the visible bread that you see. The whole point is the vision is to, in the first instance, feed 1,000. I may have some bread, so that will start with maybe 50 but I'll have to go and figure out where else am I going to get food from to feed the other persons. So if we limit the building of houses simply to New Providence, I think we have a problem immediately.
What is going on? What I see, right, is that okay, you remember you mentioned about a new day, being a new day, right? And how and that it can be a new day, right? If you continue to have a Ghassine cabinet.
No.
Right? So that's right there should tell you that it is not a new day. It's the same system where there's no separation of the executive, right, and the legislative.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So and that's easy. As an easy way to fix that. The legislators need to be legislators and not the vast majority of the government or caucus legislators.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? To fix that.
You know, Carla, right? You know, Carla. A lot of time we knock the system and we criticize the system. Do you know that by constitution, the cabinet needs only be, I think, about 8 persons, right?
That's minimum.
Yeah.
But there's no maximum.
I understand that. But it also operates within the confines of the convention, and the convention which stands out, which says that the parliament must have or should have the ability, the power to check the executive, demands therefore that in the construct of the executive, it is not large enough such that it trumps the power of the legislative. It's simple as that.
That's in the convention in the Bahamas. You mean at some European convention or British convention?
That's a convention under the Westminster system.
Right. See, so but it is not so here in the Bahamas. They don't adhere to this convention.
We understand that it doesn't, but I am saying to you, and this is what I am proposing to you, that when I started earlier, I'm saying that the very first thing that this administration will do is to select a cabinet, i.e. the executive, right?
Right.
And therefore, the very first opportunity it has to signal the difference in approach going forward is the size of that executive, that cabinet.
Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I don't know. So far, they only selected, I think, 9 persons.
See, there's so much ways for them, for the government to be effective, and with not having all those members. You know, they could do local government. You understand what I'm saying? They can do appointments in these various ministries outside. The parliamentarians should not be a member of some board or some other job. You see, given by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, there are many areas of, I think, where you can look to really shore up governance and change the way things have been done up to now. And I think if you are going to make the argument that this is a new day, and if you're going to take that to its ultimate nth power, then some of these reforms are going to be necessary.
See, I am like Aaron, what's this lady name? The lady that comes on, and Aaron Bain. I am a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist.
Mm-hmm.
Like the European, like the Labour Party in Europe. Yeah. Like most of the European governments, I'm a democratic socialist. You see, and this is what we lacking in this Bahamas. We have no Democrat. We don't have a progressive wing within the PLP, a progressive party. You see, until we get it, you know, we will always have these issues, and we refuse to do the things that we need. The taxation, the corporate tax, and the income tax that we need. These are the measures that we need to deal with all of our issues, with all of our downgrades. Our downgrades happen because of the borrowing of our government.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for your contribution. But as it relates to socialism, people in the Caribbean do not like socialism. You can dress it up as much as you want, call it democratic socialism. After the experiment in Jamaica with Michael Manley and some other persons across the region, and the incursion from the United States that philosophical battle during the days of the Cold War. That's not going to happen. Anything that looks like communists in this side of the world is going to be, frowned upon. But I do understand where you're coming from. It's impossible. It's impossible to build a country and run the country without having a social apparatus. And that social apparatus is designed to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, those who are operating at or below the poverty line, those who need a hand up. It's necessary. The other point you make is as it relates to taxation. This is a conversation which has been delayed ad nauseum, over and over and repeatedly. But I believe that the concentration or the inflection of issues as it relates to debt, these downgrades, the pressure that we're coming under from our revenue, the revenue side, but it's largely because of COVID, but still it exists. I believe that all of these issues are going to force this discussion of taxation squarely on the table. And from an intellectual point of view, one must ask and have to consistently ask that when you have plans which are bounded around the idea of making adjustments with regressive taxation, if we're thinking about it deep enough and far enough, the fact of the matter is we have heard consistent administration use the term to get persons to pay their fair share. The truth of the matter is, as long as you have a regressive tax system, you will simply have some individuals who are better able to pay and some individuals who pay more than their fair share. Because a tax system at the end of the day should always be fair and equitable right across the board. But in regressive tax system, the man who earns $200 per week will spend $180 of that on food. Now, there's some food that don't charge VAT and so on, but he consumes stuff which is still VATable. So a larger proportion of his earnings goes out to pay taxes versus the individual who makes $2,000 per week and buy just about the same or even maybe less food, maybe the same amount of food, but proportionately his tax contribution, the amount he pays in tax as a proportion of his salary is much less than the guy who operates at minimum wage. But these are important challenges, really. They are important challenges for the country because guess what? When you're used to something, when the structure of your country has been built and riveted for a long period of time on doing things in a particular way, changing that is not easy. It's disruptive. And that disruption have to be balanced, or at least the need for change must be balanced against the disruption that could be caused in the short term. And if it could potentially harm for the long term, then obviously you have to kind of moderate the way you go about it. But I believe that the discussion around tax will come at some point. It must come because the questions, or at least one of the questions that's going to be asked of those who are lending is, how will you repay? How will you repay? And the ability of the government to repay usually come from three sources that I am aware of: taxes, selling stuff, or borrowing money. Borrowing money, selling assets, or taxes. Consider the extent to which we have stuff to sell, the extent to which we can borrow money, or the extent to which we can raise taxes. You listen to the It Back on Guardian 96 Radio, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I'm sitting in for Nahaja Black. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. If you want to join us on the other side, it's 323-6232, 325-4316, and 325-4259. Come right back.
Softer, smoother, and amazing skin. Oh, sugar, sugar, we're the sugar ladies, giving you skin soft as a baby's. Goodbye hair, we'll take good care of you.
Come visit us at Bahar Treat Spa on East Bay Street. Contact us at 323-6711 or visit us online at www.baharetreat.com.
The Water and Sewage Corporation advises the public and its customers that the corporation will commence improvement works on Bamboo Boulevard, South Beach East, beginning Friday, September 3rd, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily for a period of 8 weeks. During this time, there may be some interruption in water supply and traffic flow around the work area. The corporation apologizes for any inconvenience caused.
What happened to you? You look like you lost your paycheck.
Man, I just realized I got scammed out of a bunch of money. They said I won this contest and just needed me to send them some money so I could collect. I mean, to expedite something. Or was it to smooth the process?
Man, you're smarter than that. Protect yourself against scams and fraud by following these steps. If you know you didn't enter a competition, you can't win. Never pay to receive a cash prize. If you're being asked, you're being scammed. Check trusted internet sites for verification of information given to you. Do not give your banking details to people you don't know. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Monitor your bank account regularly for any questionable transactions. Get more information at getmoneysmartbahamas.com.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAL, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have balus, pork, fish, and chicken served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Balus, Nassau East South, call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Balus, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Balus jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And welcome back to the Hit Back. I'm Hubert Edwards, sitting in for Nahaja Black. We're having a conversation around a number of issues as it relates to the results of the election, the new administration, where we're going. We're looking at some issues around the downgrade from Moody. We talk a little bit about transparency issues, and certainly we're open to your views, your conversations on any of these points or whatsoever it is that you wish to discuss. We have a caller, early caller on the break. Caller, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
Really well. I'm listening to your program, and I want to say in a very positive way that a new day may mean different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
And in the conversation so far on economics, when you mentioned the word, I don't know if you mentioned the word austerity.
Yeah.
But something to that effect.
I have used that word, yeah.
Yeah, it also may mean that I will want to add also, it means, I will want to use another word, responsibility, and so on. So it's all for the good of the whole, the entire Commonwealth. And so it calls for real bravery and boldness and forthright, steadfastness.
Mm-hmm.
But we all must prevail.
Yep. I think you're right. At the end of the day, caller, regardless of what a new day means to you, when you take it and you distill it down from my perspective to its bare essentials, it have to be, as you stated, what is good and in the best interest of the Bahamas and for most of the persons within the Bahamas. So it may, in an instance, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be good and hunky-dory.
Correct.
It may mean that there will be moments of pain, right?
Sacrifice.
It may be moments of sacrifice. It may be moments where we have to step up and cooperate and show responsibility and to demonstrate our obligation as citizens and residents in a different way. It may mean that there's going to be greater level of transparency in governing and governance. It may mean that some of the things which have gone up to now is going to be fundamentally changed. But however you slice it, at the end of the day, if that good isn't there and it looks like what was, then obviously then that would be antithetic to there being a new day.
And all in all, it should be a moment. There should be a level of optimism and a brightness.
Definitely, all of those things are. There has to be this whole idea that there is a consensus vision around which the country is moving towards. There is hope and belief that things are going to be better. There is this idea, as I said at the beginning, of embracing the possibilities, that regardless of who you are, regardless of where you're from, regardless of where you are at the moment, you have the ability to do, to become, to have more, to do more, to become more. It has to encapsulate that type of an essence of positivity, productivity, value adding, all of those good things for it to maintain its essence, at least from my perspective.
I'm hoping that there will be enough patience among all of us, especially I would say the masses, to really understand the wide scope and possibilities and needs.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's good, and certainly I would caution anyone to show some measure of patience. The reality, though, is there isn't going to be a whole lot of patience shown. And there are going to be
human nature.
Yeah, there are going to be segments of the population when in week 3, this administration is going to come under pressure, just like the administration before it. And they will have to be content to deal with the pressure and move forward with the vision and keep selling the vision. But it is important that that vision is very clear. And at the end of the day, that they are consistently adding more and new persons accepting the vision and moving forward in such a way that ultimately...
I want to go a little further.
Go ahead.
The same enthusiasm on the campaign trail is that same level of enthusiasm that will be needed to, as it were, to have people go along with the actual program in work now.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much for your contribution, sir. Always positive, and, just to kind of varnish what you said. We must do this with a sense of positivity. We must understand, if we use the analogy of a new day dawning, the sun is up, the sun is bright, the sky is beautiful and radiant, and you see all of the colors. We have to do that. We have to see it within that light. And the energy that permeated from the process of being elected must now transfer into the process of governing. And that cadence, that momentum must go all the way to the top. It cannot change. You cannot shift to the right. You cannot shift to the left. You cannot look back. It has to move forward. The expectations, I believe, are very high. But, no one should fool themselves. Absolutely no one should fool themselves. People are going to ask questions. There are going to be pressure. Individuals are going to call in on these radio shows, and they are going to criticize, and they're going to find points at which they can poke at. The opposition in the House of Parliament are going to do that, and that's exactly what should be expected, because that's exactly what was done before and will be done in the future. But that's the environment within which the performance is expected to emerge. And to the extent that this administration can do that well, then they will make the case to be able to come back to the people and ask for another term. Whether they do it well or not, they will definitely come back. That's what political parties do. But at the end of the day, the extent to which they will be convincing and compelling in that acts rests significantly in how they do it. And this applies for any political party. The FNM will have to now go away and do its assessment, rebuild from pretty much the ground up, it seems, and come back to the public someplace in the not too long future and say, here is our new value proposition. Here is what we are representing. We're not moving away from our fundamental ideals and our standards and values, but we are retooled, repersonal, and we are representing ourselves as the potential government in waiting. That will happen. But anyone who is in this, who believes for a moment that this ride is going to be easy, needs to wake up right now, because it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Not just because of the expectations, but just because of the nature of what it is. Yes, it's government on one level, but at the end of the day, it's all about politics. And when you do a good thing, that is going to be spin that, yes, it was good, but look at how far else you could have gone. And when you do a bad thing, you're going to be rubbed right into your face. That's just the nature of the game. And those who play it, I think, understand or ought to understand, and they should be ready to move forward. So as we come to the end of the show, I don't think we can have a discussion around elections and change of administration and moving forward without asking ourselves, what, therefore, is my role? What's your role? As a citizen, as a resident, what is your role in the future success of the Bahamas? So we have elected a new administration. And I say we in the widest possible form. You may not have voted for any member of the Progressive Liberal Party. You may have voted for someone in the Free National Movement or one of the other parties who are currently not sitting in Parliament. But as a collective, the country, because it's a first past the post arrangement, the country has decided, by omission or by commission, that the Progressive Liberal Party should form the government. So we now must, as citizens and residents, rally behind this entity for the greater good of the country. So what role do you have? What's your obligation? What is your commitment in this direction? I believe that every single individual has a contribution to make. Those who call in on radio shows have a contribution to make, should do so sensitively, wisely, and in ways which add value and uplift. Those who sit around these mics and speak, as I'm speaking to you, have a responsibility to do so wisely, to do so diligently, to do so fairly and objectively, and to help to marshal the conversations in such a way that we can find solutions. Or if we're not finding solution, we at least finding good vibes, good things to hold on to create a sense of hope and positiveness for the future. We can do that. But also, we have to be brave, bold, objective, and very clear that when there are moments where you need to say, no, that shouldn't have been so and that is wrong, then you say so in very clear and objective terms. That is a contribution too. So whatsoever it is that you do, you sweep the street, sweep it well, because that's a contribution to the country. You sit at the top of the government, then run that well, because that too is a contribution to the country. And no individual contribution is useless. Everybody have a role to play. We have a caller. Caller, go ahead quickly. Caller, go ahead. You're on the hit back.
How you doing, my brother?
I am doing fine.
You're running out of time, so moving right along. With 7 minutes left, which will make my point.
No, you have 60 seconds.
No, I said in your show.
No, I know what you meant. I'm just playing with you.
It's unfortunate for me that it took me 7 years to congratulate the newly elected, constitutionally elected Prime Minister Philip. I now know his middle name, Edward Davis. Brave is a kind person that I know him to be. Now, it was unfortunate that my comment, public comment I made, had to be made. And that's because of the mix-up in that 7 years. That's how I'm going to fix that. I'm looking forward to be led by a person, a real Bahamian from Cat Island. I also would like to see and emphasis be brought to the fact that Christopher Columbus landed in Cat Island, and Cat Island was once called Cat Island San Salvador in 5 years. It's going to take 5 years for him to do that. That's the truth. Yeah. How long does it take the truth to come to light? Good day.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so there's still that controversy that Christopher Columbus landed someplace. He said he landed in San Salvador, as opposed to San Salvador. And San Salvador was actually Cat Island. But from my perspective, I really don't care where Columbus landed. It's obviously a significant moment in history, but what came after was certainly no fun and nothing to celebrate for persons like myself. So, yes. What is your critical role in the success of the country? I believe that as citizens and residents, persons passing through and persons flying over, we should find at least one thing that we can do well, one thing that we can contribute in the interest of the country. It may not be comfortable to do, but you must contribute. We have another caller. We're running out of time. If you can get it in 60 seconds, then go right ahead, caller, quickly.
Yes, hi, Mr. Evans. How you doing?
I'm good.
An act of Parliament in the late 1920s actually changed the landfall from Cat Island to now San Salvador.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. An actual act of Parliament.
All right. That's new information for me. Something
right.
I'll check that out. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Yes.
All right. So the persons in Parliament didn't like where Christopher Columbus landed, so they put him someplace else. Yeah. So the closing thoughts I have is find something where you can contribute in some way. It may not be a big thing to somebody else, but of course it requires effort on your part. You may not have the opportunity to do big, great things which get magnified and is in the spotlight every single day, but whenever you have that opportunity, do it. If it is helping somebody, talking to somebody, supporting a school, supporting an organization, contributing to something, sharing your ideas, speaking up, speaking out, express your displeasure respectfully and sensitively, do so. But do everything that you do with a deliberate consciousness that you're doing it in the interest of the country. You're not just doing things, but you're doing it in the interest of the country. And I think if we do that, we will be the better for it. We are clean out of time. We have to wrap now. We're going into the news. But certainly it was a pleasure serving as your host this evening. You're listening to The It Back with Nahaja Black. I am Hubert Edwards. Have a good evening, Bahamas, and let's all work towards making the Bahamas a better place. Good evening.